Can an invisible failure ruin an entire season of Formula One? Ferrari has decided to act after an urgent request from Charles Leclerc, who suspects that his car is hiding a problem as subtle as devastating. Today I'm going to show you what they discovered in Baku, why this failure could change everything, and how Leclerc could have saved the year of Ferrari. During the Azerbaijan 2025 Grand Prix, Charles Leclerc began to perceive something unusual, something that only a pilot with his level of mechanical sensitivity can detect. In modern Formula One, where each millisecond is millimetered by sensors and each decision depends on algorithms, there are still times when the pilot's intuition is the only real alarm. Leclerc, amid the intensity of the race, began to notice that his car did not respond with the usual precision. The exits of the curves were lazy. The full acceleration, particularly in the longest lines of the urban layout of Baku, did not arrive with the expected forcefulness. But it was not a constant loss, nor a total failure. It was something much more insidious, an erratic, almost ghostly behavior. Throughout about 10 laps, his car lost power intermittently, a fall of between 10 and 20 horsepower that was not enough to activate automatic alerts or to shoot any light in the steering wheel. And yet, the impact on the track was tangible. Half a second by return. That invisible difference was enough to condemn his career, to let him trapped behind cars that, under normal conditions, would not have been a threat. He was stuck after rivals like Liam Lawson, without power to execute overtaking maneuvers despite counting, in theory, with a superior car. Impotence became frustration. And frustration in an unavoidable conclusion. There was a problem that telemetry was not showing. At the end of the race, in the private conversation he held with his track engineer, Leclerc was clear. It was not a simple lack of rhythm or an erroneous configuration. There was something broken, something that required a complete investigation, not a software adjustment or a reconfiguration of maps. He claimed immediate and rigorous attention. What he asked was not only a post-carrier review, but a structured, deep and technical analysis of the SF-25 operation under real career conditions. And he did it with solid arguments, backed not by assumptions, but for reproducible sensations, specific moments where the car lost traction for no apparent reason. Frédéric Vasseur, aware that his team could not afford another year of technical disappointments, did not hesitate to accept the Monegasque application. What was at stake was more than a single race or a specific classification. It was the confidence of the number one pilot of the team in the machinery that should take him to fight for the championship. And, perhaps more importantly, it was an opportunity to discover if the problem that had affected Leclerc was not an isolated case, but the tip of a much more dangerous iceberg in the architecture of the car. From that moment, Ferrari activated all internal protocols. Complete data were transferred to Maranello's headquarters, Baku conditions were replicated in the simulators, and a complete audit was ordered to the hybrid system, with special attention to the MGUK. But even before the analysis was completed, engineers already knew that Leclerc was right. The most worrying thing was that this type of intermittent power loss was extremely difficult to reproduce in controlled environments. It only happened under certain specific combinations of temperature, aerodynamic load, and energy transition, which made it a silent, unpredictable threat, and even more dangerous than a total failure. This first step, Ferrari's acceptance to Leclerc's request, marked a turning point not only for the Monegasque race this season, but for the complete technical project of the SF-25. It was the first recognition within the team that something was not functioning as it should, and that ignoring it could mean the total failure of a campaign that had begun with great expectations after the construction runner-up in 2024. The technical conflict faced by Ferrari with the SF-25 is not simply a localized failure, but a symptom of a deeper pathology. What began as a seemingly electric problem in the hybrid system, specifically in the MGUK unit, was transformed, with detailed data analysis, in a much more disturbing revelation. The car was designed with a structural defect that compromises its performance in the race, especially under conditions of high energy demand. Once the team began to isolate the exact moments where power was lost, the engineers realized that the error could not be corrected by electronic calibrations or mapping changes. They tried to modify the energy delivery of the MGUK, adjusted the thermal management of the hybrid system, and varied the energy recovery synchronization in different configurations. None worked definitively. Even in track simulations with replicated parameters, the behavior of the car was still erratic. The alarming thing was not that the car fails, but sometimes it worked and sometimes not, without logical pattern. This led Maranello to a scenario that no top team wants to face this heights of the championship. The possibility that the SF-25 is built on a wrong technical concept. The inconsistency in the behavior of the car, observed both on the track and in simulators, suggest that the chassis, the distribution of weight and possibly the integration of the hybrid system into the aerodynamic package have fundamental incompatibilities. For example, in certain sections of the Baku circuit, which should be a soft energy transition between regenerative braking and full acceleration, it became an uneven delivery that destabilized the car. This not only harmed the power, it also affected the general balance, making it difficult for the pilot to maintain a stable trace, especially in medium-speed curves. Leclerc explained it in a phrase that still resonates within the team: the car does not react logically. It is not that it survives or subvira. You never know what you are going to do in the next curve. This feeling of absolute uncertainty is what has led the team to open multiple lines of parallel research. It is no longer just a problem of problematic power, but a concept that could be limited to the car at all levels: aerodynamic, energetic, and structural. The impact in return times has been devastating. The data revealed that, in the initial phases of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, the SF-25 lost up to 2 seconds due to Red Bull of Max Verstappen. Against McLaren, the disadvantage was around a second constant, but with unpredictable fluctuations. This not only implies that Ferrari does not have the car faster, it implies that they cannot even predict when their car will be competitive and when not. Another severe symptom is instability in medium-speed curves. Although the SF-25 maintains a decent aerodynamic load in simulations, in the race it behaves volatile. An adjustment that seemed effective in Curve 4 generated subviring in Curve 6, and an optimal rear balance in classification disappeared in race conditions after the first round of turns. This inconsistency has made it impossible to develop a solid base configuration, which in turn complicates any attempt at technical evolution. The situation is even more critical if it is considered that the 2025 championship is being extremely competitive. McLaren has consolidated a predictable behavior car, Mercedes has taken solid steps towards greater technical consistency, and Red Bull, despite its internal turbulence and alignment changes, remains fast in lines. In this context, Ferrari not only runs against his rivals, run against time. Each race played with an unstable car is a lost opportunity. Each failed improvement attempt is another step towards the technical abyss that is then very difficult to leave. Ferrari is facing a strategic, technical, and emotional crossroads that will mark not only the future of his season, but possibly of his complete project for this era of Formula One. The acceptance of the Leclerc application was just the first step. The real challenge now is to decide what to do with what they have discovered. That the SF-25 is built on a basis that does not guarantee stability, consistency, or reliability in real career conditions. This is not a problem that is solved in a week. And the most alarming thing is that it could be repeated, even amplify, in other circuits with similar characteristics to those of Baku. In Baku it might seem, at first glance, a specific problem in the long list of technical difficulties Ferrari has had in the last decade. But it is not. It is a turning point. A moment in which the team's address has chosen not to hide the data, not make up the problem, but put it on the table, open it, and redesign from the root what is necessary. That is what separates teams that survive from those who resurface. But it is also a test for Leclerc. Because asking for an investigation is one thing. But leading a team while rebuilding their technical trust, while adjusting decisions in real time and while the whole world observes, it is another very different. This is not just your car. It is your reputation. It is his legacy. If Ferrari manages to turn this situation around, it will be largely thanks to his courage to bother the system. And if they do not succeed, it will also be the one who is marked by having pushed a strategy that may arrive too late. For Lewis Hamilton, the stage is another. Even in an adaptation phase, the British observes from within how the internal processes of a team that has received it with respect are gestated, but that is not yet ready to offer a champion car. His analysis capacity and his experience in team reconstruction, as with Mercedes in 2013, could be fundamental at this stage. But at this time, it is not he who marks the technical pulse. It is Leclerc. And that internal balance between two natural leaders will also be a key factor in the outcome of the season. Is Leclerc the true leader that the team needs, or are they depositing too much pressure on their shoulders at the most fragile moment of the project? I invite you to leave your opinion in the comments, share and subscribe.